Hey everybody, welcome to the Road to SALT webinar series. We're so glad that you're joining us. If you are new to SALT, a big welcome to you especially. Our mission here is to equip you with tools and resources that help you in your ministry, to inspire you in new ideas and new ways of thinking to help grow or transform your ministry, and then of course to connect you with people who do what you do, who know what it takes to pull off a Sunday week after week. And one of the best ways for you to get connected is, of course, to join the chat that you see. We've already got some conversations started. We've got some polls going, but this is the best place to meet others who do what you do. And of course, to ask your questions as we go throughout the webinar today. Now, if you are returning from a previous webinar or you're familiar with the SALT community, my face might seem a little unfamiliar. Hello, my name is Caitlin Johnson. I am the SALT director here in Nashville, Tennessee. Typically, you will see Luke McElroy up on this stage, this virtual stage. But since he is out of town, I am covering today for this huge topic of how to transform your ministry using AI, ChatGPT, all the different tools that are out there for AI. So we're excited to tackle this. Thankfully, I will not be teaching this subject because I feel as new and as much of a beginner on this as probably most of you do. So we have got a great guest today to handle that, because just not my cup of tea. But I do want to say we have a couple big announcements I don't want you to miss out on later today. At the end of the webinar, actually, I will share them. Yes, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to wait until the webinar is almost over before I tell you our big news and share these big new tools and resources for you, because we don't want you to be distracted from learning from our guest, Kenny. Kenny Jang is here today to teach us about transforming your ministry using AI. Now, Kenny is SALT alumni, is what we call him. He is SALT familia. He has been at SALT previously for different conferences to teach workshops, also to host our live stream at a conference before as well. His official titles are the editor-in-chief for Church Tech Today. If you're on our mailing list, you might recognize a few of those articles. We share them every once in a while for our 5 Things emails. But more recently, he has added the title of founder for AI4churchleaders.com. This is a group that blew up in recent months as AI has become bigger and better and more people are diving in for their church in particular. He has really become the leading voice on how to use AI for your ministry. And I don't know what more credentials you need than that. The leading voice of AI for church. I mean, that's huge. So we're excited to have him join us today. And it is going to be a big day. So take notes. Grab your pencil, your notebook, your stylus, whatever. You're going to have a lot of notes to take. Also, be involved in the chat. I just want to put up there right up front. You're going to have questions. You might feel a little silly or stupid with the questions you want to ask, and you might hesitate from putting them in the chat. Please do not hesitate. When I first talked to Kenny about doing this webinar, we were like, we need an AI maybe 101 class. And he said, no, this is AI. You need an AI 001 class. So we're all, well, maybe a lot of us are new here. Some of you might feel like experts. You might be using this daily, which is awesome. We're ready to speak to you too. But just don't hesitate. If you have a question, put it in the chat. Someone else is probably looking for the same answers that you are. So utilize that chat to connect and ask questions. We will answer them towards the end of the webinar when Kenny is done teaching. We'll answer your questions live and hopefully give you some very specific answers to your situations or scenarios on how you can utilize AI. But without further ado, I want to hand it off to Kenny to teach us how it's all done.
How you doing, friends? Kenny Jang here. It is time for another session of Road to SALT. I'm really excited because this is one of those topics that I've been up day and night. And I will just say, just to preface this, it has brought back the sense of wonder in my world and really just starting to appreciate what technology can do for us as ministry leaders. And so today I'm going to go through a little bit of a high-level overview of what generative AI is all about, and then we're going to go into a couple of use cases, and then we'll go through some Q&A. And I'm in the chat in the webinar, so if you want to put some questions in there, the team's going to flag them, and we'll get them to get to it later, and hopefully you'll get something out of this today that you can bring back to your teams for conversation and other things that you might be able to put into play for your own ministry. So before we get started, let me just share with you a couple of things just to give you a frame. If you haven't met me, my name is Kenny Jang. I hang out, as Caitlin said, at churchtechtoday.com, this new community called AI for Church Leaders.com. And I also have an agency team that helps churches and ministries with content marketing and digital engagement, et cetera. My background has been a church online pastor. And so thinking through digital ministry and how do we use technology to scale personal relationships and community has been something that I've been really, really interested in. In particular for this specific topic, I'm a Jasper certified. Jasper is one of the AI tools out there. And on a practical basis, on a weekly basis, I've been using these AI tools a lot. This is just a screenshot of my latest report from Grammarly for 1 week in February. I've produced over 155,000 words in a single week. Now that's a lot. That to me, I think, is just something most people can't fathom. But this is what AI can actually help us do today. So let's get to the agenda. What are we going to do today? We want to really help you understand what is generative AI, what is it good for, what can't it do, and then get to some really nitty-gritty case examples in the specific church context. And then I'll give you a couple of tools because everyone's asking, hey, how can I start to dive into this? Where do we get started? Those are the things that we're trying to do. So let's get to the first piece. What is generative AI? Now, there's all these different flavors of AI, and generative AI is the latest one. You might have heard the term Gen AI or generative AI. It's all come onto the scene since about November. The media poster child is ChatGPT, made by this company called OpenAI. And that's probably why you've started to hear or talk about AI with your peers. Now, generative AI is, if you want to be simple or reductionistic, there's this thing called machine learning, right? You have computers with massive brains. They use algorithms to basically process massive amounts of data that you and I can't do on our own that efficiently, and it just cranks through stuff. Generative AI in a way has taken that and then put just one other layer, an AI called natural language processing. And all that means is you don't need to be a coder, you don't need to be a scientist, and that you can literally talk to the machine as if it's actually a human, right? You're going to talk as if it's a conversation, as if I'm asking Caitlin something and she's going to say something back. And the kicker is that in generative AI, it allows the computer to come back and not just spit out results that you have to interpret with a data scientist, but it actually allows you to then talk to it as if it's, again, a conversation partner. Most of the stuff that you're seeing today that we talk about in terms of AI is in text mode. But generative AI has the ability to go multimodal. What do we mean by that? Multimodal basically just means, hey, we could deal with text, we could deal with images, we could deal with audio and sound, music, and we can also deal with video, right? So it's multimodal. Now, what most of the stuff that's happening today is you enter text and then it comes back as images. You might have seen some fantastic stuff that have come out in terms of profile pics and really crazy things that come out of the AI for images. While videos are next, that's emerging right now, as well as music and audio and speech that you're seeing. I'm cloning my voice right now, training the machine to allow it to speak in my voice as we go. So what is AI good for and what it can't do? There's a couple categories that I like to think through in terms of like, hey, how should we be thinking about AI for our own teams? Well, one is communications, whether it helps you with email and social media, newsletters and video scripts, and just creating things for communications is something that's really good for them. The next category is research for brainstorming, summarizing content, topic suggestions, figuring out what other people are doing in terms of ad headlines and copy and best practices. Another category is analysis and organizing things, data manipulation, extracting core concepts out of things, using it for planning projects, reorganizing content. These are the types of things that AI is good for. And then the last category is improvement, content logic, helping it create better arguments or flow, taking content and then figuring out what are great discussion questions that help advance the conversation, finding clarity of your messaging and helping you edit your messages in a way that comes across better. And then reframing your content for different audiences. That's a very powerful one. And we have a poll that's going on right now. What are the main ways you plan to use AI? Just hop in there and let us know what you're thinking about and how you're doing it. Now, so what can it do? Basically, there's three big buckets that I want you to think about. One, it can research well, it can do analysis, and it can work with content. Those are the things that, hey, if your workflow, if your job and the stuff that you're doing right now in ministry deals with these three things, or if you want to be able to apply these types of category of work, then you might consider AI. And the best thing that I can give you in terms of advice is to think of AI like a seminary student intern. A seminary student intern. It's a conversational chatbot. And this is one of the things that I really think that is helpful for the people that we've been coaching and mentoring, etc. What is a seminary intern? They're intelligent. They have an appreciation for the context of genre, but they're not the smartest, or they're not the experts in the field. So if you ask, say, for a sermon writing exercise, if you ask an intern to go off and do research about what Deuteronomy says about a certain topic, it may come back and the intern may get it, but may not, right? It's 50-50. And if it doesn't, what do? You don't just use it as is. You actually redirect the intern and say, go back. I want you to have more specificity in XYZ. Go and explore this category thought, right? You will redirect the intern. This is the best way. It's called a conversational chatbot for a reason. And again, you would never take something that an intern gives you and use as is live for the public. You need a human in the loop. And this is the same thing that you would do for AI. Now, what are some of the things that can't do? Well, I would say there are three categories there too. You really wouldn't want to depend on AI for it to care about somebody in your ministry. You wouldn't want to depend on AI to do the actual critical thinking and initiating all of that for you. And the third one is pastoring, right? There is no humanity inside the AI machine. And in fact, the way ChatGPT works and all these generative tools right now, we'll get into that a little bit later. They don't actually have any specific thoughts in mind that they're actually doing. The way they construct the text is in a way that actually has no connection to caring, thinking, or being able to pastor someone. Now, when we get to AI, there's this concept that I think a lot of people have, and I've heard this term being minted. It's not FOMO anymore. It's this term called FOLO. Do you have fear of looming obsolescence? Do you fear that your job is going to be taken? Do you fear that AI is going to take over the world? I just watched Terminator Genesis the other day, and you've got Skynet coming to wipe out humanity, right? Do you have this FOLO? Well, I think there's this balancing act that we have to have with this technology. As you know, technology is neutral, but in particular, it doesn't mean that it can be used only for bad things. It could definitely be used for good. It depends on how we actually appropriate it. Now, there's a New York Times columnist, Kevin Roose. He's written a really good book, and he's got some great stuff on AI. He was recently at a Gen AI conference, and he shared with us three types of work that are safe from AI replacement. I don't know if I fully align with his worldviews, but these are great conversational starters internally. So he says that AI can't be replaced for things that are surprising. If you have work or interactions or expectations that are irregular or chaotic or physical based in person, things that are basically hard to codify and build a workflow around a routine or a standard operating procedure, things that are very unusual each time, like working with people. Surprising things is not something that AI is good in terms of handling, right? AI is great, machine learning is great at pattern recognition and things like that. The second thing is social, fulfilling that social emotional need, right? That things that are experiential or even like artisanal, things that actually, even like the SALT conference itself, right? I think the SALT team in particular differentiates that experience from other conferences where it's not a cookie cutter industrial, like, machine in terms of getting you in and out and training you. There is this experience and artisanal nature of the work that the SALT team does. social things is one category of stuff that AI can't do. And the last one is things that are scarce, things that we actually won't let AI do. Why? Because there's high stakes. There's a very low fault tolerance for things to go wrong. Things that require observable excellence, as we call. Again, counseling is something that, right, is high stakes, that you don't want to be able to screw up something in a counseling session because you depended on AI. You want to actually have things that are actually human controlled, humans in the loop. So those are the types of things that, in my mind, are good starting places to say, in our ministry work, or even in your own career and your own vacation, how can you increase the value of what you do across those three things? And that, I think, is a good starting point for you to start to reevaluate what are the things that we can actually offload or integrate AI into, and then what are the things that, with the energy, the time, the budget, everything that's been freed up, what are the higher value areas that we actually have the ability to invest in further because of the humanity that we have in the church. Okay, we're gonna go directly into some use cases. I think this is one of those things that everyone feels like, oh, we can talk about AI all day, but what does it mean for me? What does it mean for church context in particular? So in terms of use cases, I've prepared a couple, and again, we're gonna have Q&A. Would love for you to actually go in there and put into the chat some questions that we can talk about later. But let me just rifle through these use cases, and that we can then get to actually attending to your own situations. Okay, so the first one is images. Beyond the text generation, there's image generation that's starting to happen. It's becoming much more accessible. Here is a picture of my dog Pom-Pom, Havanese puppy. She's got a little black eye patch and a pom-pom tail. That's why we call her Pom-Pom. And what I did is I put that into the AI, and look, I've got AI Pom-Pom. And so this is typically the type of stuff you probably have seen on social media, doing some novelty and tricks and things like that. But it goes beyond that, right? In our content production workflows for publishing, we actually have a lot of issues where you're dealing with topics in the church that there isn't stock photography for. So going to the AI to help you produce scenarios that there are no stock photography, or it's hard to produce custom photography for, are things that you can actually use AI well for. So these are just some samples of images that I've produced for articles, for ebooks, etc. We're actually writing a book that's about to be published next week called Unlock the Power of AI. And some of these images are being produced for that. And I shared with you the exact AI prompts that we've used to produce it. Here's a great example. This is not something that you can find in stock photography that well. A man working on a laptop in a cafe with a Bible on the table next to him, and a cup of coffee with latte art, because we're talking about SALT and Nashville and Christians, and they always have to have latte art in your coffee, right? And so we said, hey, a cup of coffee with latte art. He's sitting on a wood coffee shop chair. It's got to be sustainable wood. And then someone behind them, right? And so this is literally the image that came up, and it's pretty good. And I think I didn't ask for the depth of field, but this is something that, again, you would not typically find in stock photography that well. A very traditional one for a children's book. This is something that's a little bit more complex in the AI prompt that you see. But you see, feeding the 5,000. This is something that AI has produced. Nothing's perfect, and this was the first rendering of it. And again, it's called conversational chatbots for a reason. That you would go back and revise and go back and forth with the AI to become better. Okay, the next use case is volunteer appreciation, right? There's volunteer appreciation. There's two things in particular that you always want to take care of, right? For volunteer appreciation, with volunteers, you want appreciation and you want recognition. Those are two strategic things you have to do with all your volunteers. Volunteers are our heroes. We wouldn't have church with our volunteers. What do we do to actually appreciate them? And so one-on-one actual, catching them in good behavior and actually recognizing what they actually do is something that AI is really great with. So I worked with a church leader recently, and he was at a loss for words. He wants to send out about 5 to 10 letters a week, but you get in a rut. it's hard to, you get writer's block. So we went to Jasper Chat. Jasper is one of the AI tools out there. And this is what I said. Hey, I want you to be a generous leader invested in your team's members' growth. Therefore, you will need to create messaging that is specific and encouraging. And the church's values are X, Y, Z. And here's my first request. This is what we asked. Hey, AI, write an email thanking a volunteer who leads the parking volunteer team on Sundays and provides the first interactions with new visitors to the church, right? Strategically, that's what that role is for. Then, specifically, this volunteer, John, shows up 15 minutes early. This is what you catch him doing. Very good stuff. He shows 15 minutes early every Sunday, and he encourages other team members, and he leads by example in hospitality. Make sure to ask for suggestions on improving their experience as a volunteer. You want that feedback group. And so AI came back and wrote a letter, an email, and this is the actual email that came back. It's a very good start. It may not be perfect. You might want to tailor it a little bit more for your voice, but it really helps generate the words to help express and align your intent with the communication much quicker, much faster, so that you can actually be more efficient with appreciating each and one of your volunteers. Instead of sending out a generic message, you have now the ability to go through and customize things for each specific volunteer. Another one is church announcements. We all do church announcements from the stage. It's one of the least planned but highest strategic moments of the liturgy on Sunday. And this is what we did with the church. A local pastor said, hey, let's act as a pastor's planning Sunday worship service. Let's use this communications framework called the before-after bridge. And let's write a stage announcement script to use during the service, because they were just using the same script over and over for about half a year. No reason, no wonder why people tune out or start to take a nap during announcements, because you've said the same thing the same way for months. Well, this allows you to change up the voice, the tone, the personality, etc. So write a stage announcement that presents the current situation where someone who has started to attend our church, but hasn't made any new friends yet. And that can be one of the biggest benefits of joining the church community. This is something faced by many, right? Empathetically, you understand that many people who recently are new to the church feel that. Show them the world after joining a volunteer team at church and how it has improved their situation. The call to action should be to look at the volunteers rock sign in the lobby, go talk to somebody. Someone's going to be there to answer questions and share what are the opportunities to join the volunteer team, right? So this is a volunteer push. It's used as a welcome for new visitors. It's doing more things than you typically would with a specific announcement. And let's see what the AI came back with. It came back with the before, bridge, and after framework. And I'll just read this quickly as a stage announcement and tell me, are we 75% there, 80% there, 90% there? I want you to put into the chat what you think about this script. Maybe it's totally off in your view, but let's read this. Hey, good morning, everyone. As we come together, I want to take a moment to speak to those of you who are new to our church family. We understand that joining a new church can be overwhelming, especially when it comes to making friends. After that, we want to say, hey, but we want you to know that making connections and forming relationships with one another is one of the biggest benefits of being part of our community here. We've seen it time and time again. People who are once strangers become lifelong friends because they have shared faith and values. In fact, just last week, let me just tell you, we had someone who's been coming for 2 months share with us how joining a volunteer team completely changed their experience of being part of the church. Before they started volunteering, they felt a little bit lost and unsure where they fit in. But after joining the team, they quickly connected with others who shared their passions and interests. Now, look, this person feels like they have a purpose and a sense of belonging within our community. They're excited to come to church each week, not just for worship, but actually to see their friends and to be part of something bigger, right? And we want the same for you. So I encourage you today, after service, just take that step, learn about our options we have across all of our volunteer teams, right? Imagine having that type of script that's produced on an original basis every single Sunday for different things, and having a volunteer say that from the stage. How great would that actually be, right? That's one of those things where it allows you to get out of those ruts, and then you can actually target the announcements to different segments or personas in your actual community. Okay, another use case is developing actual content, right? So Bible study curriculum is one of them. And this is what we went with Jasper. We said, or this is with ChatGPT for this example. We said, hey, I want you to act as a Bible study curriculum content creator, right? You would want to tell the actual AI what you want it to do. You will need to create engaging, informative content for learning materials for a 9-week study guide for small groups that meet weekly. The topic should be the fruits of the Spirit, right? What are they? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, 9 weeks. Each week's lesson should include references to Bible verses, explanation needed to understand the context of biblical times, and thoughtful, open-ended discussion questions, as well as a written closing prayer, right? Because sometimes the Bible study group leaders need some help. So my first request is, hey, let's write an outline for each lesson. And you see here, it starts to outline the lesson for you. Now, this is a great starting point. Think of this again as the seminary intern, the seminary student intern. Can you give that type of assignment? Are you going to get back something that's perfect? Like Nick in the chat is saying, hey, this kind of stuff is 80% same thing with Wondria. Absolutely, right? But 80% is something that you can work with and then talk back to the AI and say, hey, I like this point. I don't like this point. Hey, you got 3 discussion questions. I liked questions 1 and 3, but can you replace question 2 with something else? Can you make it seems like you're making the emphasis on this point. I'd rather it be on this other point. These are the conversations that you can have with AI. Okay, the next use case is strategic analysis. Leadership is going to love this stuff. If the executive pastor in your church does not love AI, we need to talk. So I was just talking with a church management software platform today, and we were talking about use cases because they didn't understand how AI might be used in their own software. And I'm doing the stuff in Google Sheets with some church leaders right now. So we're doing it manually with data in Google Sheets, but this is going to come to be integrated with the CHMS soon. So this is a query that we just recently did. This is an actual thing that we did. Generate a list of volunteers who have been scheduled to volunteer on Sundays more than 10 times in 22. Why? Because it's easier to recall volunteers than it is to create new ones, right? So you don't want to recruit new ones, put them through the safety checks and then training and all that kind of stuff. So there's a reason why people have stopped volunteering. We got to identify them. So who's volunteered more than 10 times in 22, but haven't been scheduled to volunteer yet in 23? It brought up a list of 12 people. They start to reach out to them, build those relationships, see what actually happened, why they're not doing it. Is there a pastoral reason, or is it just they fell out of the schedule, the routine, and you're able to recall volunteers? That's a great strategic way to use AI. Another one is volunteer scheduling, right? We don't want volunteers to burn out. Now, I will say, just a caveat here, right? Anyone who's volunteered for a church, usually once they say you're a volunteer, they're going to put you on the schedule every single Sunday for the next 7 years in a row, right? Not giving you a break. But here, we can use AI to hopefully reinforce some healthy practices in scheduling volunteers. So this is what we did. We had a Google Sheet with this kind of stuff. We said, generate a weekly schedule of volunteers so that each person doesn't serve more than 3 times during a month, right? Give them a break. And I'm going to provide in this Google spreadsheet the role, the volunteer name, the list of roles that the volunteer requests, right? So if you're in a kids ministry, is it check-in, small group time, changing the diapers, whatever, right? What are the roles that they're requested? What's their preferred roles, and what conflicts do they have? Like they can't come on the 3rd Sunday in May, or right, they're going on vacation or something like that. So figure out what those conflicts are. Put that into the spreadsheet. And then I gave the rule, a volunteer cannot be assigned on any Sunday listed as a conflict Sunday. Take into consideration their main preferred role first. And then create a table with the following columns: the week, which Sunday, what team name, what volunteer name. And what happened was we identified 3 Sundays in the next 90 days where they had some missing people, right? There weren't enough people to cover those roles. Now, what can you do with that? Strategically, that allows me as a church leader now not to go to the congregation and just do a general volunteer recruiting push, but now I can start to advertise and actually recruit specific roles and responsibilities. I can actually start to identify people in the community. I can ask our Bible study group leaders, our community leaders, to say, hey, we need these 4 types of roles, and they only need to volunteer once every other month, who has those gifts, right? So it becomes much more strategic and helpful for someone in a leadership role, especially if you're in the media AV team, the creative teams, etc. Man, you always need help, right? And so how do you actually use this in an appropriate way? Okay, just the side note in the chat, we've got a poll. Which AI model have you been using personally? There are some popular names here. I would love to know what you guys are using, and we're going to have a list of other tools that you can suggest to use yourself. The next use case that I want to share is training videos, because in the media ministries specifically, there's a lot of stuff that you need to train new volunteers and reinforce with current volunteers, right? And so there's tools like this one's called Synthesia that, although we're in the media ministry, most of the times we're not always camera friendly, or we don't want to be on camera ourselves, or you want to produce a ton of output. There are tools now that allow you to put in a transcript and then choose an avatar. So like this is an actual human. And then it actually clones the voice and actually has that person talk and creates a video, a talking head video, using AI voice or your own, so that you actually don't need to have a recording time. No one needs to worry about setting up the lights and pulling down the mic, all that kind of stuff. There are different aspects of video production, and there's all these different types of tools out there that are being developed for each specific use case. And these are some of the favorites out there. Synthesia, Pictory is a great one, Lumen 5. There's all these things that you can start to utilize. Okay, here's one that Caitlin and I were talking recently, and this is just, I think, the future of AI. Just like we have in today's world, we have search engines, right? You go to Google for the search engine. In the future, AI is being integrated more and more, but in the future, we will have action engines, in my mind, personal assistants to be able to do things for you. And you're starting to see it. ChatGPT has plugins. So now you can actually have ChatGPT book you a travel trip. You can actually have ChatGPT create a recipe and then put it into your Instacart so that your food gets delivered. There's all these things that are coming down the pike. An action engine is really the future of AI. It's not just creating fun, AI images of my dog, etc. So how can we envision, this to be practical? So this is just literally one example. Recently, we were on a family trip to Philadelphia. If you've been to Philadelphia, there's a downtown, there's a city hall or building with Ben Franklin on the roof. And we were literally there. So it's a busy spot, not enough parking. And I used Jasper. I like Jasper over ChatGPT for some things because it actually has this one little thing. ChatGPT is not hooked up to the internet. ChatGPT only knows things up to about 2021 right now. But some of these tools out today are starting to integrate live data from the internet. So Jasper's one of them. And so we were at this hotel, the Residence Inn, and Valley parking, I think, was like $73 or $74 a night. Not even the whole stay. Are you kidding me? That's US dollars, friends. And so I was like, no way, man. And so I pulled out my phone and went to Jasper, and this is literally what I asked. I said, hey, can you tell me where the cheapest place to park in Philadelphia would be? I'm staying at the Residence Inn in Philadelphia. They're trying to rip me off. I'm not at the Four Seasons. I'm at the Residence Inn. And here's where I am at 1 East Penn Square. And I want to find a parking garage within 4 blocks that has a daily rate of $30 or less. I'm not here to spend $70-something to sit my car in a lot, right? So that's what I did. And then you'll see the difference here between ChatGPT is you can include Google search data, live data. And guess what Jasper came back? Jasper's awesome. Hey, it said, hey, if you're looking for affordable parking, I love how it's polite too, right? Near the Residence Inn, there are a few options available. Here are 3 parking garages within 4 blocks of your hotel with a daily rate of $30 or less. So it went out and found them for me. It went out and found the addresses for me. It went out and mapped them and said how far of a walk it is. Hey, look, my wife isn't parking the car, I am, right? So I got to walk back. So I'm lazy. So I wanted to figure out what a short distance is. And then you got to have all this permutations of the matrix of these decisions. I want it to be cheap too. So Park America satisfied all that stuff. And this is what AI can do. Now you'll see at the bottom, It actually cites the live sources, and I was able to get a $25 a night parking spot. It was complete. It was in a covered garage, and I saved over $50 a day just by asking Jasper this one question before checking in. That's the type of thing that you can do. Okay, the last thing I want to go through is workflows. We're seeing a stacking of different types of AI tools into one little, one workflow that's actually working. So here's an example. We're in Zoom Life now. You can use a tool like Otter that actually gets invited to your Zoom meeting. It's a silent participant. It actually records everything, transcribes everything, then summarizes it, takes note of everything that was an action item. So like, in the meeting, Luke or Caitlin's comment and say, hey, Kenny, you got to go clean the bathroom today, right? That will be on the actual notes in the AI from Otter. Now, what you can do is stack it and send all that, copy paste it, put into an AI tool like Quillbot, which is like a paraphraser. It actually helps you sound less robotic and a little bit more human. So it actually makes it a little bit nicer to read. And then you can actually send it into another tool called beautiful.ai, and it takes text and automatically creates PowerPoint presentations with graphics and flow, etc. Imagine if you had webinars or training meetings or staff meetings, recording it, summarizing it, paraphrasing it, making a PowerPoint deck, making it into PDF, and then you can distribute it to everybody so that after the meeting, it's like notes for the meeting for people who didn't come, as well as people who did come. It's a reminder for everything they do. So those are the types of things that AI you'll start to see. It's a stacking of things to build workflows. I want to get to the Q&As, but before we do that, I just want to rifle through just a list of tools that I think that you guys probably want to do. And I believe this is recorded, so you're going to be able to go back and screenshot stuff. But I'm going to use my New Jersey velocity of voice and just rifle through this so that Caitlin and I can get to Q&As after this, okay? So the first one is Bing. Microsoft is back. It's Revenge of the Nerds. Everybody's been using Google, but now you're going to start to see Bing come back because they have been integrating the technology behind ChatGPT. You'll see it, practically speaking, in a search engine. Like on the right-hand side, there's some chatbot windows that are happening. There's actually a chat little tab at the top that mimics what you do with ChatGPT. So there's a whole chatbot here. It has, even though it's using the same engine, the results are quite different. Each one of these AIs have different personalities. That's something you definitely should try out at bing.com, which is free. Grammarly is a great tool. And I was just demoing today. They just added something called Grammarly Go, where, in fact, I don't know if Caitlin, we'll have to quiz Caitlin. I had an email exchange with her today, about 4 emails, and 3 of those 4 emails were written by Grammarly Go. It actually sits in my Gmail, and it reads what actually Caitlin wrote to me, and it predictively gives me a draft of something that I would respond with. I could just tweak it, and I tweaked literally like, I think, 2 words each time, and I hit send, and it just helped speed up everything. In fact, Caitlin probably has a good impression of me, thinking that I'm actually a polite human being. And you know what? It's because it's Grammarly. It's not because I'm so curt as I'm, normally from Jersey, etc. So that's a great use of AI. Everyone knows ChatGPT. ChatGPT is something that I think you should explore. If you are a ChatGPT user, our friends Dustin has created this tool called Magi.co. It uses ChatGPT technology, but allows you to save stuff, sort into folders. You can use it with Teams. It's got a ton of great stuff there. Jasper, again, is my favorite. You could, there's over 50 templates that Jasper actually has. And if we had another session, we could show you how to create video strips and transcripts of YouTube videos and summarizing them, or creating YouTube video scripts, etc. There's tons of stuff that you can do in Jasper. Again, over 50 different templates that you should try out. There is an actual trial here. This specific tool gives you 10,000 words to test out. That allows you to test a lot of these templates out. I highly recommend that you go and get the trial to just experiment, to see what it actually can use it for, and just see what the templates are available for. Claude is something that you're seeing that's coming out, which is a competitor to ChatGPT. It's made by the company Anthropic. Anthropic is the company that Google just dropped, I think, about $350 million in that arms race against ChatGPT and Microsoft. Copy AI is another great tool that you can try out. Quillbot is the summarizing paraphraser tool that I talked about. Beautiful AI is the tool that you really need to check out if you do any type of presentations at all. Otter AI is the one that like actually listens to your meetings and helps you create notes and does tons of great things in terms of summaries, et cetera, making you productive. And here's just a bunch of tools that I recommend to beginners to actually, and you can screenshot this and start to actually, discover what is available out there. Again, multimodal and different types of use cases for creating copy, for going back and forth in a chatbot, like as if they're your seminary intern, graphics, video. There's all these other things that you can do. So that's your big list. I'll just do a shameless plug for our community, AIforChurchLeaders.com. We have over 1,000 people in there, pastors and church leaders just like you, and we're just nerding out, trading notes because we are on an innovation front right now. And the best way to learn when you're in an innovation front is to learn from each other. When I was a church online pastor back in the day, someone just called me the granddaddy of church online pastors. I think I was like the 24th church online pastor in the world. Back then, people literally like questioned your legitimacy, right? Like if it's senior pastor, associate pastor, then there's like the youth pastor all the way down, right? Youth pastors or youth ministry folks are people you can pay with pizza and that just have a pulse. And then church online pastors were underneath that, right? Well, now after COVID, it's revenge of the nerds. And we learned back then the only way to survive is to help each other, to learn with each other. And that's the same thing that's going on with AI. We love the fact that you showed up for this training. We hope that you use the actual replay to actually start conversations with all of your staff and your peers and your volunteers so you can collaborate together. I love the fact that Road to Salts makes these things available outside of the main conference. And that's what we're here for. So I'm going to turn it back to Caitlin so that we can actually get to some questions and see how we can make this the best thing on your calendar all week.
Kenny, thank you. Oh my word. I took a lot of notes on that myself. Also, I have to say, I love FOLO. Like, I love that you pointed it out. It's a new term because it perfectly described how I was feeling. Now, learning more, hearing you talk about it, I am a writer and I have been using Grammarly for years, and I never once considered it an AI tool. So now hearing you talk about that, seeing it's lumped in there as an AI tool, I'm like, okay, great. I don't have to feel so much FOLO because I have been using AI without realizing it. So that is fantastic. We have a bunch of questions, which is great. I want to get through them as much as we can so we can hit as many as we can. So I'm just going to dive right in, if you're good with that, Kenny.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're going to start with Emily. Which AI tool did you use to create those images?
There's a couple. The one that most of them were created is something called Midjourney. Midjourney is a little bit nerdy because it's not really a website. You must use it with Discord. If you haven't used Discord, sometimes it's bewildering to get to know Discord, but hey, you need to know Discord. Discord is the future. So that's one way to create them. DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E, and we're on the second generation. So DALL-E 2 is another word you might have heard. That's from the same company that has produced ChatGPT. That's another one. And then Jarvis, the tool that I put up before, I'm sorry, Jasper. They used to be called Jarvis. They had a lawsuit, I think, from Disney or something. So they renamed themselves Jasper. So Jasper has an art tool. Canva actually has a free AI art tool as well. So there's tons of these things that are popping up, but those are some of the quick ones.
Okay, I have to say our team are huge Slack users. We opted for Slack over Discord, and I know that they've got some AR integrations like Otter that you talked about. But yeah, I'm gonna have to explore Discord a little bit more to see what else is involved there. All right, Addison, what are your favorite sources for learning more about AI? And before you answer that, I want to say that we have used, as a SALT team, AIforchurchleaders.com has been our major resource. It's just going to Kenny and this community to learn what everyone else is learning, and it's kind of filtered content already for you that way. That's awesome. But Kenny, where do you go to learn more about AI?
Yeah, so one of the things that I like using social for, instead of just connecting, is to learn about niche topics, right? Social and the internet is great for long tail content and education. And so TikTok has been a very good source. If you actually search for things on these social platforms, you will start to find creators that are actually just nerding out on specific topics. And so that's one of those things. The space is changing so rapidly that even printed blog posts and materials, etc., is hard to keep up. We publish a lot of AI stuff on churchtechtoday.com, and yet I feel like I've told our team we need to speed it up by 3x in terms of how current it is. Like, so today I've got scheduled a video to create, a reel on how to actually turn on privacy on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, it takes all the data and it actually uses it for a learning model, right, for it to become better. And so a lot of people don't know that you actually are feeding the beast. So that's why you should never really put personal sensitive information in there. But now they have a privacy option that you can turn it off. That stuff happens on a daily basis. There's so many new things. So yeah, for me, it's been social. It's been finding some of those people that are sharing what they're learning, that have that similar ethos of innovation, is that it's an open-handed way, just like SALT, the whole SALT community and all the content that you guys provide. It's like you just want to release the information and help all the people out there. So I think you can find like-minded leaders in the AI space. And then it's conferences. I'm going to, again, here's the secret. There's conferences other than church conferences out there, right? The secular marketplace world has other stuff. So yeah, I went to a Silicon Valley conference. I'm going to another one in Cincinnati in July. You might not have the budget to go all of them, but there's a lot of online stuff here today, and courses. So like, I'm publishing an ebook. We're going to come out with a course. So finding those resources, I think, is just something that's proactive, and asking around. Literally, it's just asking around.
Okay, I'm going to tag off of that, resources. Now, monetary resource is a big one, especially for churches. What do and don't they have the budget for? So when you talk about AI, I know for me, initially, I thought AI was all free. I thought it was the stuff on the internet that anyone could Google, find, join, and just start using. And then I found out there is a paywall for some of that. So Nick had this great question earlier in the chat. Is AI a worthy investment for a church organization? Which I right away think that you will tell us that yes, it is. But thinking of subscription costs, training, etc., everything involved with getting AI, learning to use it, and fully utilizing it to make it worth the money, I guess, do you think it's a worthy investment? And what are some smart routes for churches to go if they want to get involved in AI?
Yeah, well, so ChatGPT, the poster child of AI right now in the media, they have a free version, so you can use it. It's throttled. It gets busy a lot of times. I will say that they have a ChatGPT Plus, which is $20 a month, so it's less than $1 a day. And I don't think there's a single person that we've put onto ChatGPT Plus that has gone back. That it gives you a fourth generation. It's a better model, better access, and the productivity that you can actually get out of it is amazing. And the way to start is just trying it every day. Can you get into a rhythm of just trying it every day for 2 weeks? Just promise me that you'll try it for 2 weeks every day, and just start to ask it questions or do whatever you're doing at any given moment, and try to figure out how I might ask AI to help. What would you ask a seminary intern for whatever you're doing right now, and then try to ask ChatGPT, and you'll see that you will get more than $20 worth of productivity back.
I have to say, I love that example of, talking to like an intern, because vice versa. I mean, obviously interns, you have to be so super clear, and that's the point of the example. But I feel like
yes.
using AI, learning how to type those descriptions and questions, overall, it's just going to make you a better communicator. You don't realize
Absolutely.
it, but it's going to make you be so much more clear in the things you teach and the way you instruct volunteers, everything, just from the practice of using AI.
Hey, look, I can say this because I was a seminary intern at one point, and you got to almost, as a leader, have a dim view of humanity sometimes. And interns are a drag sometimes. Why? Because they don't get it. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, how come you don't get it? But sometimes that's the patience that to be able to communicate well with an intern, right? So you see ministries that actually use internship programs well because they understand how to actually redirect and actually lead that intern to success. And I think that's the skill that what AI prompt engineering really is. Can you actually have a conversation to really give it the little hints? Because most of the times, to be very honest, and this is a leadership problem, Caitlin, is that we as leaders think that, oh, everything's so intuitive, that everything's so clear, everything in my brain is something that you should already know, and that's not the case. And so it's learning to be a little bit more, hey, be a little bit more like Kenny, more loquacious, more velocity of words, just, diarrhea of the mouth, and then see what happens. And I guarantee you will have a better experience with the chatbot.
Think like Kenny, be like Kenny. That's great. That's like the rule of thumb now. All right, I want to go back to what you're talking about with privacy information. Joe asked this right afterwards, so I just want to snag onto that question. If we don't want to put personal information or sensitive info in there, how does that work with CHMS? Where is there a ton of personal information?
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons I'm pushing CHMSs to actually integrate these tools, because if they, so just to nerd out just for a second, if you're using the API for ChatGPT, the thing that behind ChatGPT, the organization's called OpenAI. So if you use the API for OpenAI, it doesn't actually bring the data in and add it to the learning model. I want these CHMS platforms to be able to actually start to integrate that stuff in a proper way to cordon off the data and address those privacy issues. You are able to either anonymize the data or turn off the privacy, or turn on the privacy features that these tools have. And again, the marketplace is going to solve that. You are starting to see tools out there that advertise that what you put in it is not being used for the learning model. It's sectioned off. You're going to have privacy, confidentiality, etc.
All right, that is helpful. I know I'm going to have to dig into that more myself to figure out how we can use it, how being careful with what information we use, because that's a huge concern, that privacy concern.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff asked, any recommendation for an AI tool for creating reels with sermons? I've done a workaround with ChatGPT, but would love to find something built for it.
Yeah, so that's a big that's a broad question.
It is.
For sermons in particular, there's many different ways. Again, and the workarounds are great for now. There's tools like a Chrome extension on YouTube that allows you to summarize instantly any YouTube video, and you can take that and put it into the AI. The reason why you want to pay that extra $20 for ChatGPT is because the memory has just multiple of how many words. It's called tokens, but it's how many words it actually remembers. So you can copy paste an entire manuscript, typically put it in, and it actually will remember it. It won't forget it. So those are the things that you want to start to do. There are tools, again, that are starting to do that. There's summarizers. That's the keyword that you'll see in the product feature sets, summarizers that are allowing you to actually put in big amounts of data and then use the ChatGPT type chatbot to pull out the summary or the scripts, etc. Jasper is one of them that I use for video scripts in particular. And again, I think this thing is evolving so fast. We could probably name 1, 2, or 3 tools here immediately, but it's probably going to be outdated in a month or two. So I would say just be a part of the community, asking around, and there's all these examples, case studies that actually come out that you can use.
All right. Well, thank you, Kenny, so much. I know that there are more questions. Unfortunately, we're close on time, so I won't be able to get them all. But if you want to stay in the loop with Kenny, of course, we recommend joining the group AIforchurchleaders.com. This is one of the best ways to keep up with what's happening with AI, just to stay in that loop and stay connected to Kenny. Also, Kenny, your Instagram, Kenny Jang. You are always posting reels, always posting articles. I know we keep up on that just because that's where we learn from. So thank you for always sharing and keeping no kind of walls or roadblocks up from learning. Our community appreciates it.
And again, I don't know it all. I would love for you, if you come on my Instagram or LinkedIn, share with me what's working for you, what actually is or isn't. I mean, I love the DMs that I get that says, hey, I tried out this tool and it was garbage. It's not market ready, right? Because that's the type of stuff that we need to have those coffee chats, right? Water cooler chats to share. The only way we're all going to get better and use this for the gospel is to work better together.
Yes, yes, that is so great phrase right there. That should be a tagline for us for this webinar. Well, a lot of you were also asking in the since you joined this webinar with a link to go back and watch this webinar. We know you didn't take all the notes. You missed a few points. We know that you might want to share this maybe with someone else too to learn from, maybe someone on your team. Keep an eye on that inbox. You'll get the link. Not only is it a replay for this webinar today, but also for all of our previous webinars for all of Road to Salt. So you'll get a ton more resources and teachings as well. Now, I had a few announcements I saved for the end. So here they are. Number one, Kenny is coming back for SALT Conference in November 15th through 17th. He'll be returning to teach more on AI. So if you need to come back in a couple of months, see where it's at, feel free to register for SALT 2023. Join us here in Nashville, Tennessee. We'd love to have you. And he's also provided an awesome partnership for us and a great opportunity for you guys. If you register for SALT Conference for November, if you register between today and May 5th, you get a free all-access pass to another conference that Kenny is involved with called Thrive and Cultivate Online Summit. It is a mental health conference for pastors, for church teams, for those in ministry. I know that this topic is near and dear to my heart. I've worked in the mental health field before, and thankfully the mental health stigma is slowly fading away. We're getting over all these pre-assumed ideas about mental health, but we all have it. We all have mental health just like we all have physical health. And so this conference, I think, is going to be so practical and impactful and useful because we go through what we call seasons of just tough times, whether it be trauma or whether it be, being an emotional resource for other people. And it weighs down on us, especially those in ministry. And we call it a season, but when it just keeps going and going and doesn't have a start and finish, sometimes that just is how we're doing life in the end. And so an event like Thrive and Cultivate's online summit is going to be so helpful, so life-changing for, I know, a lot of people. So again, if you register for SALT Conference in November between today and May 3rd, you will get a free all-access pass to Thrive and Cultivate's online summit. That is it for today. I don't want to hold you guys any longer. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep an eye on that inbox for more news, the replay link, and more news about next month's webinar. I'm so glad you all are here. I hope you learned a lot about AI. Have a great rest of your day.